Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Small Business Solution Series workshop. It is July 16th, if anybody can believe that, July 16th. And 2 weeks ago, they started talking about back to school stuff. And I thought, if I had little kids, that would make me very unhappy. They just got out of school. Why are we talking about getting back into school? But here we are. Very excited to have this program this morning. I think it will certainly always useful, but I would say now more than ever in terms of assistance to our small businesses. But before we start I would like to thank and recognize our sponsor for 2025 of the Small Business Solution Series workshop, David Yassa, who is the growth coach of Greater Portland. David, thank you again for your support, and I'd like to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Deanna. Today, the name of my business is the Growth Coach. I'm a business coach and I help businesses grow. With the current economic environment that we're living in, with the tariffs, with inflation reports, and how inflation is becoming very stubborn nowadays, businesses are struggling to grow. And I think during this time, we need to redefine the word growth. Growth doesn't always mean that you're growing year on year. It also means that your market share is growing even in tough conditions. It also means you're controlling your expenses, or as one of my clients say, massaging your money in a way where it gets used in the right direction. It also means you trim the fat a bit, and this is something that people need to wrap their head around. These are quite tough times. The market is shrinking. Q1 reports show that the GDP shrank by half a point. So it is a reality around us. Now, for business owners, especially small businesses, they need to understand how to be resilient, and resilience should have a strategy. I think if we are going to put a title or a name for this year, it should be the year of resilience for small business owners. And I work on resilience a lot with my clients. And I think that's what all business owners and leaders should be working on with their teams. They should be getting the best out of their teams without the burnout. And this is also one more thing. Teams are the ones that carry the loads. You need to show them that you're investing in them so that they can give you the best they can. And one last thing is watching your bottom line. You don't have to grow top line to grow bottom line. There is a way to grow bottom line without breaking your back to grow your revenue. And if businesses or business owners want to talk more about that with me, they can feel free to reach out. I am not a lawyer, so I don't charge by the minute. Back to you, Deanna.
David, thank you so much. And you're absolutely great message today. I think oftentimes in difficult times is when you see businesses, especially small businesses, really contract in the investment of their own business, right? They stop doing marketing. Your services are an investment in their business. And that now is the time, again, now more than ever, is the time to really work with you and talk about how they can grow that bottom line and do it in a very difficult situation. And that's an investment that will pay off not only today but long into the future. By setting that really strong foundation, they'll be able to weather anything that comes their way. So David, thank you again for your support. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Deanna.
So again, very excited about our program today. We have Trevor Leahy here today with us from Oregon's Office of Small Business Assistance, which is part of under the Oregon Secretary of State's office, if I'm correct on that. And how long has this office been in existence?
The Office of Small Business Assistance came into existence based on legislation from 2013 and started working with small business customers in 2014. At that time, it was one FTE, and it's grown to we had five full-time employees at one point, but now we're back down to four people serving the entire state and serving all of the about 530,000 small businesses in Oregon.
Wow. So I'm going to talk a little bit about you. Trevor has dedicated his career to helping Oregon businesses navigate the complexities of compliance and access the resources they need to thrive. Since 2014, he's been working closely with entrepreneurs to simplify government processes. God bless you, and foster positive connections. His approach is hands-on, approachable, and human, making the often daunting process of dealing with government agencies more accessible for small business owners. Yes, music to my ears. And Trevor, thank you so much for joining us. Now more than ever, if people weren't aware that this office was available to them and to their small business, I'm really glad that we're putting it out there and making sure that folks know that there's support and assistance. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and everyone, thank you for spending some time with me today. I'm going to talk a little bit about our office. Uh, Deanna did mention that I've been kind of working with businesses since 2014. I started my career in state service working at the employment department back in 2008. I did everything you can possibly think of at the employment department, which at that time, if you remember, we were just at the beginning of the Great Recession. So I watched hundreds of people get hired by the employment department, and I helped thousands of people with their unemployment claims. So I really got to learn a lot about how the government works with the public. And throughout my career at the employment department, I had the opportunity starting in about 2013, 2014 to really start working with employers more than unemployment claimants. And I loved it. I loved just explaining all of the rules and regulations and like helping people avoid audit problems and like knowing what their tax obligations were and knowing about classification. And working with those businesses is what led me to the Office of Small Business Assistance. And it's really just like, man, I saw so much bad customer service in my career. I thought I can help make a difference by just helping people, talking to people, making sure I'm accessible, and eventually making sure my team is accessible. So when you hear me talking about services and things that are not necessarily in our office, but might be in other offices or other agencies, know that it comes from a place where I would not be recommending a service or a person at an agency if I didn't personally think that it was helpful and accessible and worthwhile. There are a lot of government services out there that are not accessible or not helpful or just mired in red tape. And I know about some of those, but it's important that I also hear about some of those that I might not know about. So, just jumping into my slides, uh, I am part of the Oregon Secretary of State. Our office was placed in the Secretary of State with the idea that we would be outside the executive branch of government. We work for an elected individual. And so, technically, like state agencies and their directors shall cooperate with my office. And we don't I don't want to say that we are outside of the governor's purview, but I report to the Secretary of State, not the governor. And so that gives us a little bit, we're kind of outsiders in that regard. And we do try to collaborate with other state agencies. The thing we try to do, like it says on screen, is we just want to improve the interactions that small businesses have with state and local government agencies. Uh, for us, a small business is any for-profit or nonprofit organization that has 100 or fewer employees. And so when I said there's about 530,000 small businesses in Oregon, it's because there are only about 3,500 businesses in Oregon that have more than 100 employees. Everyone else we consider small, including the chamber itself. The chamber presumably has fewer than 100 employees. Thus, the chamber is a customer of ours. Just because they're organized as a nonprofit, we don't care. If there's a problem that the chamber is having with a state agency or, God forbid, a local government agency, uh, we're an option that they can turn to. Uh, so most of what we do is answer questions. And if anyone in here has been in business for more than, I would say, 5 years, you probably already know a lot of what I'm going to talk about regarding the questions we get. 95% of the work we do is answering questions from people who didn't know where to ask or couldn't get a hold of someone. Uh, so we get questions about starting a business, growing a business, closing a business. We get questions about expanding into Oregon from other states. Uh, we uh, we field everything. Not everything is in our wheelhouse, but if someone finds us instead of the answer they're looking for, we want to be kind of the directory for where they can go to find what they're looking for. And we always give options. And whenever possible, we do try to recommend free or low cost services. The caveat to that is we can't be arrogant and assume that low cost for one person is low cost for another. So we try to kind of determine what a person's capabilities are before recommending something that might cost them $50, $200. We kind of stay away from referring people to services that might cost, in the quadruple digits. Um, the thing that sets us apart from a lot of organizations such as small business development centers, SCORE, chambers of commerce are we have the authority to take complaints and investigate those complaints from small businesses about government agencies. We get complaints across the board that we can't help with. We get a lot of business complaints about other businesses, or we'll get consumers complaining about businesses, and we will talk someone through their options on those, even though it's not something we can help with. But if it's a complaint from a business about a state or local government agency, we want to know more. And the thing we do is we just talk to people about that. And then we'll let them know, like, okay, we're going to move forward. And sometimes our investigations are quick and sometimes they are painstakingly long. Uh, but we are Oregon's Small Business Ombudsman Office. Uh, a lot of times we just connect businesses to resources. We've got a pretty good network of what those resources are, but we're always growing it and adjusting it. Uh, I say we're free. Our services are paid for by business registrations. So whether you have ever registered a business or not, someone out there has registered a business, thus our services are already paid for. Uh, we are confidential. I mentioned, I think, before the recording started that any communications with us are not subject to public records disclosure because we know that a small business complaining about the government can be scary. There can be fear of retaliation, and if at all possible and desired by our customer, we will not disclose anything to the agency that we're working with. Uh, we will ask permission and try to get that in writing from the person complaining before disclosing any identifying information. Uh, before I move forward into the rest of my slides, I do want to mention that I do like taking questions on the fly. So if you have a question about what I'm talking about, go ahead and jump in and ask, because the thing I hate is forgetting about the question I wanted to ask. So if you have any questions or want to know more, let me know. I'm going to talk a lot about the types of questions that we get, though, and then I'll talk about some of the additional services that we offer. So, as far as startup and planning resources, whenever someone calls and wants to know, how do I start this business? We ask them what kind of business they're going to start up. We ask them where they're going to start it up. And then we start asking some probing questions that we might not have the answers to, but make the customer think about, because they might not have thought about it before. And we don't have the capacity to help everyone start their business. There's 4 of us serving the entire state. We get a couple dozen phone calls or emails each day. So we refer people out to partners that do have more capacity for building business plans, offering mentorships, offering cohort-based services. And the 3 big ones that we refer people to are on screen: the small business development centers. That's why we ask, where are you located? So that we can refer to a local resource rather than someone who is sitting in a cubicle in Salem who might not be the best fit for someone who is starting a business in Ontario or Burns or Lakeview. We want to connect people to local and known resources. SCORE, it has always been valuable. They offer one-on-one mentorships for as long as a business needs. And if anyone's heard that SCORE is struggling right now because they are federally funded, they are still doing fine. I checked with them last week, and even though they have reportedly lost some funding, they are volunteer based, so they are operating business as usual right now. And then Livelihood Northwest is kind of an up and coming technical assistance provider. They branched out of Portland State University. They offer statewide services and have pretty robust services available. Uh, we refer people to them just because sometimes an SBDC or SCORE isn't the right fit. We like to give people options for getting a little bit of support in starting their business. We get asked a lot about tax information, like, hey, how do I get my tax accounts? And we'll tell people, well, you can get an employer identification number from the IRS, but technically your social security number is also a taxpayer ID. You can use that. It's whichever flavor you want. Maybe you don't want to work with the federal government. Great. Use your social security number. Maybe you don't want to give your social security number to people. Great. You can get an employer identification number. Either one of those are fine. And I will give the federal government credit for making the obtainment of an EIN easy, fast, and free. It takes about 10 minutes to get an EIN through the IRS website. I will say that an EIN is optional until you hire your first employee, then it is a requirement, which leads me to BINs, business identification numbers. Those are state payroll numbers that you get from the Department of Revenue and the Employment Department. You only need a BIN if you are going to be hiring employees. I have seen horror stories where someone gets a BIN because they think it's a requirement. It is not, and it is potentially hard work to undo getting a BIN. You have to call the Department of Revenue and talk to them. They do have the capacity to make it a one-call resolution thing, but the Department of Revenue doesn't always make it very easy to contact them. And I will talk more about that later. I will say the Department of Revenue has a taxpayer advocate service. Yes.
Yes, Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you are a sole proprietor or whatever the word is, it's very hard for me to pronounce, and you're turning into an S corp
Mhm.
and you're hiring yourself as an employee, you will need both an EIN and the BIN, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, I will say that is mostly correct. And like you said, you're not a lawyer. I'm not a tax guy, so I tread lightly. But yes, an S corp is a tax designation. So you can tell the IRS, I am a sole proprietor, but I want you to tax me as if I am a corporation, an S corp or a C corp, but S corps are easily the most popular thing. That's only you telling the IRS. It doesn't impact the Secretary of State at all. And yeah, you become, for lack of a better term, an employee of the company
Yeah,
on paper to the federal government, whether or and then you have to decide whether you're going to also be subject to unemployment insurance, whether you're going to take on all of the state obligations. And for that, we really recommend talking to a tax preparer because A, the
yeah,
tax preparer is most of the time going to handle that notification to the IRS. But just because a tax preparer says, hey, you should be taxed as an S corp, make sure you understand the obligations that
100%.
go with that because it's like, oh, I'm going to be taxed. I'm going to be taxed as an S corp. Yay! Know what that means because you might not have to pay more taxes. You might even pay less taxes depending on your business and how you file. But your obligations will increase. And then you can do a little cost benefit analysis of your time.
Yeah,
Uh, so just
100% agree.
yeah. Um, so
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. It's a great question, one that we do get a lot. We get tons of people who are saying, "Hey, how do I change my business to an S corp?" It's like you tell the IRS you want to be taxed as an S corp. You don't tell the Secretary of State. We don't want your tax information. Uh, so that's about as close as we get to taxes. Um, I mentioned when people call us asking about starting their companies, we ask them what they're doing, and that's because of business licensing. Business licensing is based really on two factors in Oregon. It's based on what you do and where you do it. The what you do is important because what you do or what you sell might be regulated by a state agency. And that, so it could be if you're getting into construction, you have to be licensed by the Construction Contractors Board. If you're doing commercial janitorial cleaning, you have to get licensed by the Bureau of Labor and Industries. If you're setting up a child care facility, you have to get licensed by the Department of Early Learning and Child Care. Um, if you're setting up a convenience store, you're going to have so many regulations, your head will spin. We actually have written articles about all, like I want to say it's about a dozen agencies you have to work with to set up a convenience store. Uh, um, so we tell people like, oh, you're doing that? Great. Here's an agency you're going to need to work with because what you're doing is licensed. Uh, those licensing, those licenses may have insurance requirements, uh, and that's something you would have to shop around for. But we tell people research, know how much it's going to cost you before you spend any money. Uh, there's also local business licenses. So I believe City of Hillsborough has a local business license. Washington County, if you're outside city limits, does not have a county business license currently. There are counties in Oregon that have a rural business license, Curry County in particular. If you are outside Brookings, you have to get a county business license. Uh, if anyone is taking notes and thinking, ooh, neat, uh, Tillamook proposed a county business license a while back, and there was a great cry from heaven and the small business community, and it didn't end up happening. But we tell people, okay, you might need a local business license for wherever your business is headquartered, So know if it's going to be at your home or if it's going to be at a shared working space or an office or a brick and mortar, know where that's going to be so you know what the requirements are. And if you have a business where you go to multiple locations, you might need multiple business licenses. So when you talk to the SBDC or SCORE or Livelihood Northwest or anyone else who is helping you develop a business plan, put down what your service area is so that you can start researching all the different licensing you might be required to get. Uh, we also tell people about home occupations. Uh, if anyone isn't familiar, a home occupation is when you run a business from your home, but your home is probably zoned for residential, but you're going to start using it for commercial purposes. So a lot of counties have zoning regulations involving using a residence for commercial purposes. And it's a box of chocolates. There is no rhyme or reason. It is whatever that municipality wants to have as far as protecting the integrity of a neighborhood. Home occupation regulations are what prevents your neighbor from opening up a smoke shop or a Walmart or a drive-through or a used car dealership. Uh, it's for the integrity of the neighborhood. Uh, and so just check locally and know, because if you find out that your home occupation requirements locally are very strict, you might need to spend more time finding a brick and mortar location or a co-working space or something else that is allowed by Secretary of State to headquarter your business. Uh, so those are the three things about business licensing that we get a lot of questions about, and we really are passionate about, because we don't want businesses to get closed down or fined because they didn't know about local regulations. And the state can be terribly unforgiving when it comes to non-compliance of licensing. Uh, I'm going to touch very briefly on business growth because I don't want to step on David's toes here. But I will say everything that David said when he was speaking before me is 100% accurate, and I couldn't agree more. Well done. Kudos from state government. Uh, I will say a lot of businesses get interested in government contracting as a mechanism for growing their business. If you are considering that, the three things I cannot recommend enough are getting your certification from Business Oregon from the COBID office. COBID is the certification office for business inclusion and diversity. They are desperately wanting to change their acronym since the pandemic, but I will not let them, because COVID is awesome and we were here first, and they should just take it back from the pandemic. Uh, Apex Accelerator was formerly known as GCAP, which was Government Contract Assistance Program. They offer free technical assistance for government contracts at any level. They'll help you with federal contracts, state contracts, or local contracts. And they offer an awesome service for $5 a month. They will scrape uh, every bid bidding platform, every procurement platform for opportunities that fit your business, and send you that list. That is well worth the time you might spend scouring the plethora uh, of opportunity platforms. So Oregon Apex Accelerator is awesome. And then if you're looking for state contracts, Oregon Buys is the platform where most state agencies post their opportunities. Uh, I would say, in addition to those things, get to know your regional development officer. For Washington County, Clackamas County, and Multnomah County, it's a guy named Jeff Hampton. He works for Business Oregon. His job is to kind of walk the land and work with businesses about growing. He works for Business Oregon, and I can't recommend him enough. I think Yamhill County might have they're in a different region, and I can't recall who the Yamhill County Regional Development Officer is, but it's fine to talk to multiple regional development officers and get to know them so that you know what's happening in regards to economic development in your area. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. I'm going to talk about employment. I'm not going to get really deep down into the weeds on employment because employment is more complicated than owning a business. It is expensive, it is complicated, and as an employer, you are taking on a lot of obligation and a lot of risk. So we tell people very candidly, if you are considering hiring your first employee, especially if it's a part-time employee, consider a staffing agency or a temp agency because the number of obligations you get are intimidating and you might just save some time and sanity by going through a temp agency to hire someone. Course, again, cost benefit analysis. But if you're looking to hire like 3 or 4 people, that might be a good time for you to start looking at some of these obligations that you have. Having said that, there's a lot of resources out there from the state. And again, these are services that I will vouch for. The Bureau of Labor and Industries has employer assistance. Uh, and it, like us, it is free and it is confidential. They will not take any questions they get, anything they hear, and send it over to the Wage and Hour Division or Civil Rights or anything like that. It is a safe place for an employer to ask awkward questions like, do I really have to give my employees breaks? Tell me more about sick leave laws. Can I fire someone because they did whatever they did and I didn't like it? Foley Employer Services are phenomenal for that. And we send people to them on a daily basis just so that they can find out what is legal and what is not legal. Um, Bully won't give legal advice, but they will say, here's what the statute says, here's what the law says. The law does say you have to do this. So they'll help an employer make an educated decision on how to move forward. Uh, WorkSource Oregon is part of the employment department, and they offer free services to businesses who are seeking employers. A condition of being on unemployment is that you have to register with WorkSource Oregon, and they help match people looking for work to businesses that are looking to hire people. That's always been a free service, and it works. They have a few. I know that they have the office at Willow Creek on 185th and Baseline. That might be the only WorkSource office in Washington County at this point. Is that correct? Uh, well, we'll
Yeah,
assume
it
it's
is,
correct.
you're right, Trevor.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Um, we recommend that if you're looking to hire people, that is an option. Yeah. And then Oregon OSHA. You will, anytime you hear from someone in state government, be like, huh, my office is the best kept secret in state government. I am here to tell you that Oregon OSHA's consultation services is the best kept secret in Oregon. Uh, Anyone who says otherwise probably doesn't know about OSHA consultation services. OSHA consultation services are free, they are confidential, they do not interact with OSHA compliance. So if you have a work site, you can invite Oregon OSHA consultation services to come inspect the work site. They will come do an inspection. They will tell you about things that are red flags for them, and they will give you a report and they will walk away. They will not share that information with compliance. I've been to their Tigard office down by Bridgeport, and they have a physical barrier between the consultation side of things and the compliance side of things. They do not interact. They do not overhear phone calls. They do not share emails. They take that very seriously. What the consultation does is it gives you a 90-day get out of jail free card. You have 90 days to fix the things that they brought up. And during that 90 days, if by some random coincidence an OSHA inspector shows up from the compliance side, they are not allowed to do their inspection because you are in that 90-day window after a consultation. And you might be fixing something. They can't fine you or penalize you for that. So we really encourage any business that has a work site to utilize OSHA consultations just as a means of protecting their workers and protecting themselves from the inconvenience and potential penalties that can come from an OSHA consultation. Uh, and then workers' compensation. We don't get a lot of questions about workers' comp. However, there is a small business ombudsman for workers' compensation issues. They are free. Her name's Caitlin. She is awesome. She is super accessible. Like her phone number and name and email address are all over their website. And if you have any questions or problems involving workers' comp, Caitlin and her office are available just like I am. We talk to each other almost daily. Uh, about customers who contact us and need to talk to the other. Uh, so a few more resources that are out there that aren't necessarily tied to employment, but are just good to know. Economic development groups. Oregon is flush with economic development organizations. And if you're looking to grow your business, they are an excellent resource just because they're going to stay involved in what's going on in terms of business development, business growth, grant opportunities, funding streams, and really just what's happening. So uh, it, I would be shocked if Washington County didn't have a local economic development group. I tried to find who it was yesterday so I could look cool and mention it, but I wasn't able to figure out exactly which one was going to rise above all the others. So Deanna can jump in and correct me. But they're research economic development groups. You can get free labor market information. Again, this is from the employment department at qualityinfo.org. That's the division of research, and they have economists and analysts who just survey businesses, crunch numbers, and then write reports. So if you're looking to be competitive, offer more competitive wages or salaries, or if you want to know what is my competition in Washington County? They can help you with that. They would probably love to help you with that. Um, all of their contact information is available at qualityinfo.org. And I'd encourage anyone who just wants to talk about data and numbers to reach out to them. Uh, Chambers of Commerce. I love Chambers of Commerce. Chambers of Commerce are a great way not only to network with other businesses, but maybe you as a business owner are looking for a service and you don't know how to find it. I talked about insurance a while back. Maybe you need to get insurance, liability insurance, or you need to come up, find a workers' comp carrier. Talk to your Chamber of Commerce, join your Chamber of Commerce. Odds are there is going to be someone providing the service you're looking for who is a member of that chamber. And that way, you can keep it local. You can keep it with someone who knows what's going on in the neighborhood. You can and you can meet with them probably more frequently than I can meet with my insurance agent, who I see maybe once a year by phone. It's nice to have that real person interaction, especially after we were deprived of it for so long a few years back. Um, A lot of chambers of commerce no longer have the requirement that you be in their vicinity, in their geographic area. Um, and there's also cultural chambers of commerce. So maybe the Washington County Chamber of Commerce has been a perfect fit for you. But man, you really like what the Burns Chamber of Commerce is doing. I would expect that the Burns Chamber of Commerce has no issue with you joining them. You can also join the Oregon Pride in Business, the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. There's the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce. There's all sorts of chambers of commerce out there. And we just tell people, find your people and join a chamber so that you have the support of a community behind you. Uh, and then the Department of Revenue. I mentioned that the Department of Revenue can be tough to get a hold of, and that is true. However, there is a guy who works for the Department of Revenue. His name is Chris Cox. I didn't put his direct contact information on the slide, but I routinely travel with Chris's information because Chris is the guy who does outreach statewide for payroll and withholding education. He does free trainings about withholding and payroll. And Chris is the guy who, if you have a bin and there's a problem with it, if you get an unexpected employer tax bill, if you aren't sure about uh, what to do about taxes, Chris will at least talk to you. Um, uh, you can find Chris's information on the Department of Revenue website. You go to the business tab, you go to the payroll and withholding link. That was so buried in their website. Putting the link in here would be epic long and not very reasonable, but I will throw it in the chat before we end this meeting so that everyone can have it. Uh, uh, because Chris is like the gateway into business taxes. He's not a tax preparer. He cannot give tax advice, but he knows that I throw him under the bus almost every day, and he is fine with it. We get along really well with Chris. Okay, I've got about 5 or so minutes to talk about OSBA, my office, and some of the things that we offer. We do quarterly newsletters in both English and Spanish. We started doing the Spanish newsletter this year. Our first issue was in January. We just put out our July issue last week. And while that's only 3 issues in Spanish, we've also been translating all of our back issues into Spanish. So we've got about 10 or 12 of our newsletters in English and in Spanish on our website. Uh, Uh, we recognize that a lot of businesses suffer from email fatigue, especially if they work with a lot of state agencies. So we don't send out more than 4 emails a year, unless something really crazy happens, in which case we might send out like, whoa, businesses, we really need you to look at this thing. It's the Corporate Transparency Act. Don't worry about it anymore. Uh, but uh, we try to keep our newsletters small and relevant. So if there's ever anything you'd like to see in our newsletter or something that you think we should include, we want to know about it. Uh, we have a legislative website. We were tracking small business legislation this year, and we had one person on our team, and that was their full-time job since January. At one point, we were tracking about 1,300 bills that we thought would have an impact on small businesses. That's out of 3,500 or so bills that were introduced total. There were more bills introduced during this legislative assembly than any other year. Uh, there were about 600 or so bills that got advanced to the governor and are either signed or awaiting signature. And there is over 200 bills that we track that have some type of small business impact. We put together a website thinking, oh, this will be so much easier for small businesses to track instead of going to the Oregon Legislative Information System. And it's not because of the quantity of bills. So maybe next year it'll be a little bit easier, but right now there is a single place you can go on our website to learn a little bit more about legislation that we think will impact small businesses. Now, that doesn't mean all 200 bills are going to impact your small business, but it's a good idea to stay informed on in that regard. Uh, and then we're updating our business guides this year. We have a start a business guide and we have a employer's guide. We update them every 2 years, and starting next month, we're going to be updating them. They're available in English, they're available in Spanish, and this year we want to get them translated into Russian as well. Um, uh, Here's our contact information. Uh, I know that this seems very generic, an 844 number, but there's four of us. That rings at one person's desk. He ordinarily answers the phone, like Office of Small Business Assistance. This is Alvaro. How can I help you? Except he's at a different event right now. So I think right now no one's answering the phone because I'm here. He's at an event, another person is at a different event, and I gave one person the day off. So sorry, no one's answering the phones right now, but we respond to voicemails same day. Same with emails. Uh, so it's 10:50. I want to be able to answer any questions, but I'd also like to be able to show you a little bit of the things on our website that I talked about. So if it's okay, I'm going to stop sharing my slides and jump over to our website and uh, open it up for questions at this point.
Thank you, Trevor. That was awesome. So many resources. The one question I had is, out of this last legislative session, were there any new or additional certifications that came forward that we should know about to help share with our members?
Um, You said certifications, and my mind immediately went to one thing. I'm afraid it's not what you might mean though, but yes, there was a bill that creates a new certification for businesses from the COBID office. So COBID will certify a business as a minority business enterprise, a woman business enterprise, veteran business enterprise, uh, and they have legislation passed. It has not yet been signed by the governor to create a small business enterprise.
Oh, wow.
One of the certifications is emerging small business. That's the one I left off. Emerging small business is basically neutral, but you can graduate out of it. Eventually, they no longer consider you emerging after you get to a certain level of revenue or after you have been in business for a certain number of years. This is uh, it's race, gender, it's neutral across the board, and you don't ever graduate out of it. So we kind of anticipate that getting signed, it passed without controversy. So that will be that's actually pretty cool, we think, because some businesses will be able to take advantage of that. Um, in our newsletter, we didn't randomly select, but we uh, pointed out a few other bills that we thought, people ought to know about this. One of them is about the employer assistance program at Boley that I mentioned. They are within their own division now, so they're not even part of wage and hour or civil rights or anything. They are separated even more from those compliance areas. Um, there is a new prohibition on employment discrimination based on age. Um, it's now if you're going to hire someone, you can't ask them how old they are or when they may have graduated from high school or college. Uh, uh, a pretty substantial one that we want people to know about is liability for unpaid wages. So let's say you're a contractor on a construction project and you hire a subcontractor. If that subcontractor doesn't pay their employees, it can travel upstream. The liability of those non-paid wages can travel upstream as far as the customer. Um, so that will revolutionize uh, the contracting world because customers being liable for wages could substantially impact how things go. So we all need to kind of learn from this as it happens. And then we all
It's
remember
a terrible idea,
we remain neutral. We have no
right?
official
Chambers of
position
Commerce
on the
don't. It's a
on the
terrible idea.
legislature. Yeah, we're non-lobbyists, so I don't get to have a position on that, but I get to tell people, hey, watch out for this. Uh, and then we all remember the plastic bag ban from 2020, and then they banned styrofoam containers at the beginning of this year. And there is yet another ban on plastic bags. This applies to restaurants. So restaurants can't give you to-go food in single-use plastic bags anymore. We didn't know that that was a problem, but evidently it was a problem. So more plastic bag bans. Uh, so what you're seeing on screen is our newsletter from earlier this month. I wanted to also show you our legislation page real fast. Nope, not in learning opportunity. So this is all the bills that we were tracking. Uh, they're in numerical order, and right now we've changed their status to either passed or pending. If they're pending, they're awaiting the governor's signature. If they've passed, governor has signed them. They might not be in effect yet, but we're going to update this again after the deadline for the governor's signature so that we'll know what passed and what was vetoed. But there are 213 bills on this page. It can be exported, sorted, and the links take you to the engrossed language of each bill. Uh, so it's not perfect, but it's what we got right now. And I'm appreciative to the person on my team that spent the past 7 months watching these and sorting them. It was a lot of work, and he is on vacation this week. Well deserved. So, any other questions?
Trevor, so helpful. And again, this will be part of our library of small business resources, this program. And we'll include it in our upcoming newsletter in case you missed it for our small businesses, because it's super valuable. And this becomes now an opportunity for us to point to these resources that you presented on this program, and to anybody trying to start a business, because you can remain neutral. I don't have to, and it is super hard to start and own a business in the state of Oregon. We are not business friendly. We're the 38th worst business friendly according to CNN. And I think that we have a role. Chambers of Commerce have a role to play to make sure that our elected officials understand and know the Herculean efforts it takes for someone that wants to start a small business. And isn't it funny that to start a convenience store, how inconvenient it is through the state of Oregon? That's ironic, isn't it?
It is.
It is.
You can't retire.
Right. I
You need to
am.
keep advocating for us.
Well, I can always do that, from afar, but again, thank you so much. This really inspired me to start thinking about how we can do a better job of, getting these resources out to our small businesses. David, yes, again, thank you very much for your support of the Small Business Solutions Series workshop. We are off for the month of August. So you will not see us until September, and it's a different date. It's not the third Wednesday. It is the fourth Wednesday this time. And it's the 24th and a little bit different. We're going to be in person only, and our program is utilizing AI for your small business. It'll be here at the chamber, a little bit of a cost, like $15, but limited in terms of 25 people in the room, and encouraging you to bring your laptops and do it on, on the spot, so you can actually, try and test out the tools and tips that you will be getting from the chair of our board, Titonian Wallace Sr., as well as AJ Green with AI Agency, Advantage Agency, excuse me. But again, Trevor, thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciate it. And best wishes for the great rest of your week. Stay cool out there today, folks.